Germany just did something that would have been unthinkable a few years ago. Asylum applications dropped by 50% in 2025. Not 5%, not 10%, half. From over 229,000 in 2024 to just 113, breaking down Germany's asylum drop, border policies, Merz government impact, labor shortages, and what 2026 means for migrants and refugees. 3,000 in 2025. So the big question is, did Germany close its doors, or did something else change? Because the real story is more complex and more political than most headlines are telling you. Let's break it down. If you follow European migration, asylum policy, or are personally affected by these changes, this video is for you. No political spin, no sensationalism, just facts, context, and what this shift actually means going into 2026. The numbers that shocked Europe. Let's start with the raw data. In 2025, only 113,236 first-time asylum applications were filed in Germany. Compare that to 229,751 in 2024, 329,000 plus in 2023. That's the lowest level in over a decade. This isn't a small adjustment. This is a structural reversal. So what changed? The Merz effect. New chancellor, new tone. In mid-2025, Friedrich Merz became chancellor, and from day one, his government took a harder line on border enforcement. The most visible move, expanded land border checks with Poland, Austria, Switzerland, and the Czech Republic. Federal police were instructed to stop people at official crossings, turn back those without valid entry documents, enforce existing border rules more aggressively. Important point, these weren't brand new laws. It was new intensity of enforcement, and the impact was immediate. Section 3, deportations and family reunification tightened. It didn't stop at borders. In 2025, deportations increased by about 20% compared to 2024, focused mainly on rejected asylum seekers, people with no legal basis to remain. At the same time, family reunification visas dropped sharply. Eligibility rules were tightened, approvals slowed, and for many families, doors quietly closed. This combination alone explains a significant part of the drop. Section 4. But it wasn't just Germany. Here's where the story gets deeper. This decline is not only about German policy. Syria changed the equation. Political shifts in Syria in late 2024 had massive ripple effects. Throughout 2025, Syrian asylum applications fell sharply. Some Syrians in Germany even returned home voluntarily under government-supported programs. Let that sink in. Syrians had been one of the largest asylum groups for years. When that flow slows or reverses, it transforms the entire system. Southern Europe tightened. Italy strengthened its own controls. Balkan and Mediterranean routes became harder to cross. When fewer people enter Europe through the south, fewer people eventually reach Germany. Migration is a chain. Break one link, and the whole pattern shifts. The political battlefield. Now, predictably, this data became political ammunition. Merz's coalition says, look, enforcement works, we restored control. But the reality is messier. The far-right AfD continues polling strongly, meaning for many voters, this still isn't enough. On the other side, civil rights groups and opposition parties are raising serious legal concerns, and courts are getting involved. Courts push back. In summer 2025, a Berlin administrative court ruled that some migrants were illegally turned back at the Polish border. The reason? Legal conditions for refusal were not properly met. The ruling was case-specific, but it exposed a critical issue. Aggressive enforcement can cross legal lines, and that tension is not going away in 2026. The big contradiction: labor shortages. Now here's the irony. Germany is facing severe labor shortages: healthcare, construction, manufacturing, logistics. Government estimates show Germany needs hundreds of thousands of workers every year just to keep its economy stable, and many refugees from previous years are now working, paying taxes, filling essential roles. So you've got a contradiction. Politically, pressure to reduce asylum. Economically, desperate need for workers. Officials insist asylum and labor migration are separate. But in reality, they are connected. When you reduce one, you affect the other. That's just math. What Merz actually said. In his New Year's address at the end of 2025, Chancellor Merz tried to balance this. He said Germany would maintain access to asylum for those who qualify, enforce borders, more strictly act within German and European law, coordinate with neighboring countries. The message was clear: control without closure, at least in theory. ETIAS is coming, and it matters. Now let's talk about what's coming next. In late 2026, Europe will launch ETIAS, the European Travel Information and Authorization System. This will require travelers from visa-free countries to apply online in advance, get authorization before entry. It's not a visa, but it is another layer of screening. It won't directly affect asylum seekers, but it signals something important. Europe is tightening overall entry control. The direction is clear. What 2026 is shaping up to be right now, German authorities are watching early 2026 numbers closely. Border checks remain expanded. Enforcement is not easing. Coordination with EU partners is continuing. If low numbers continue, this becomes a new normal. If numbers rise again, 2025 may have been a temporary dip. Either way, Germany has crossed a line it may not easily walk back from. Section 11. My take: human plus strategic. Let me say this clearly. These are not just numbers. These are people making life or death decisions. At the same time, it's undeniable. Germany deliberately changed its approach in 2025, and the numbers changed with it. Whether that's right or wrong depends on your values, your politics, and what you believe Germany should represent. But from an analytical standpoint, 2025 was a turning point. Germany moved from being one of Europe's most accessible asylum destinations to one of its most tightly controlled. That is not an accident. Germany's 50% drop in asylum applications did not happen by chance. It happened because policy hardened, borders tightened, routes shifted, and global conditions changed. As we move through 2026, with ETIAS coming, labor shortages growing, and political pressure rising, this story is far from over. What we're watching now is not just migration policy. We're watching Germany redefine itself.